Oh, all right. Good morning. I am Juria Laing from Institute of Teacher Education, Tun Abdul Razak Campus, or Institute Pendidikan Guru, Kampus Tun Abdul Razak, Kota Samarahan, Sarawak, Malaysia. A warm welcome to all of you who are able to join us today. And especially, I've made to understand that we have participants from India, the Philippines, and Indonesia. A warm welcome to all of you. I'm happy that you're able to join us for this webinar, which is entitled English Language Education in the New Normal, Evolving and Thriving in the Digitalized Pedagogical Landscape via Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Ladies and gentlemen, as indicated in our webinar flyer, all attendees will get their e-certificate of participation. There are two different links. Make sure you go to the right link. All attendees who are from the Ministry of Education, please register in the SPL KPM link. All the other attendees, click on the other link and complete the Google form as required. Your e-certificate will be emailed to you. All right, please take note that to be eligible for your e-certificate, you need to submit your registration by 2 p.m. today. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite Muhammad Akmal Khalish bin Desmond for Dua or prayer recital.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Amin amin bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahilladzi bi ni'matihi tatimmus salihah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulinal amin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. We extend our hands gratefully praying to you and expressing our appreciation on your infinite favor to us, so that we are able to gather here today. Ya Allah, embrace us, your servant, to always be thankful for the mercy and grace that you have abounded us. Ya Allah, Ya Alim, Ya Khabir, we are here to seek for your knowledge, which is beneficial for us so that we can develop our potential upon your blessings. Ya Allah, the Almighty, may you bless this webinar on English language education in the new normal, evolving and thriving in the digitalized pedagogical landscape. Grant us with wisdom, enlighten our hearts with your guidance. Hopefully, by the end of this webinar, we are able to contribute to the betterment and advancement of our education. Ya Allah, Ya Qawiyu, Ya Mateen, please reward us with good health, peaceful mind, and spiritual strength. Hopefully, we are able to cope with challenges and turbulence so that we can contribute to the field of education. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Khalish, for the dua. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed my pleasure to welcome the Director of Institute Pendidikan Guru, Campus Tun Abdul Razak, Madam Anis Alisha bin Abdullah, to grace the occasion with her opening address. Madam Director, you're on.
Thank you very much, Madam Juria. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to our honored panel of speakers, Dr. H.C. Aslam Khan bin Samas Khan, Senior Academic and Executive Vice Chairman of American Education Group, Dr. Joseph Ramanaya, Senior Lecturer, Faculty of Language and Communication, UNIMAS. Dr. Shamini Siva Vikaraman, Head of Unit, Department of Documentation and Publication, LTAC. Dr. Nur Hasmiza Sasali, TESOL Postgraduate Program Coordinator, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, University Technology, Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. Dr. Willy Janda, Head of Language Department, Institute of Teacher Education, Tun Abdul Razak Campus, as well as the head of the organizing committee. Moderator, Dr. Ho Tin Tin, Senior Lecturer, Institute of Teacher Education, Tun Abdul Razak Campus. Ladies and gentlemen, praise be to Allah. We are grateful to be here for the officiating of our forum on English language education in the new normal, evolving and thriving in the digitalized pedagogical landscape. First of all, I would like to welcome everyone to our forum today from wherever you are, near and far, especially our participants from India, from Philippines, as well as Indonesia. Yeah. I would also like to thank our panel of speakers today, Dr. Aslam Khan, Dr. Joseph, Dr. Shamini, and Dr. Nur Hasmiza, who have very graciously agreed to contribute their ideas and sharings in our forum today. I would also like to congratulate Dr. Willy Janda and the Language Department, Institute of Teacher Education Campus, for organizing this forum. As we have participants among us today who are not from Malaysia, therefore allow me to briefly introduce Institute of Teacher Education to Abdul Razak Campus. We are one of the 27 Institute of Teacher Education campuses in Sarawak, and our campus is located in Kota Semarahan, Sarawak. And we offer programs in teaching, and this would include a Bachelor of Teaching degree, and we also offer postgraduate diploma in education and also diploma in teaching. And currently, we have students majoring in TESOL, Islamic Studies, Physical Education, Malay Language, Visual Arts Education, and Early Childhood Education. We also provide CPD courses for in-service teachers. Therefore, I fully support the organization of this forum as I see it as a part of our efforts to enhance teachers' professional practices through the sharing of good practices, as well as to enhance learning partnerships among practitioners in the field of education. Ladies and gentlemen, the past 2 years have been very challenging for us, and it has impacted all aspects of our lives. And I'm sure you will agree that never before have we seen such large-scale educational crisis, such as the one brought about by COVID-19 pandemic. And we all see and we all remember at the start of the pandemic, billions of students worldwide were forced to carry on their classes remotely, be it schools or institutions of higher learnings. And it has brought about worldwide disruptions to the way teachers used to do things. Teachers do not communicate with students the way they used to. They do not teach the way they used to, and students do not learn the way they used to. Here we see the concept of traditional education has changed radically. Being present, being physically present in a classroom isn't the only learning option anymore. And we find that teachers and students alike find themselves being thrown right into the middle of the digitalized pedagogical landscape. Of course, students who have better access to technology will surge ahead, and undeniably, the most hard hit will be those students with the greatest educational needs and the fewest opportunities. This is a real threat to the sustainability of our children's education. However, as Professor Yong Zhao, Foundation Distinguished Professor in the School of Education at the University of Kansas says, education crisis is a terrible thing to waste. Therefore, we need to reset our thinking. We need to recalibrate our thinking so that the education crisis that we are currently facing will not go to waste. Ladies and gentlemen, Malaysia has moved on to the endemic phase, with Sarawak being the most recent state to join the rest of the country to enter phase 4 of the National Recovery Plan. Schools too have reopened. Therefore, I hope this forum will provide a deeper insight into the new normal and create awareness of the way forward into digitalized pedagogical landscapes so that we can not just evolve but also to thrive. I hope everyone today will enjoy a rich and rewarding exchange of ideas on the latest in classroom practices in their respective fields. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the participants for their support. As for the students who are with us here today, I hope your participation in this forum will be a great learning experience for you, whether in terms of enhancing your digital pedagogical knowledge or as a source of invaluable hands on training in how to organize and run an online event. Finally, to the organizing committee, well done to all of you, and I hope this will be the start of many more events such as this. Finally, I would like to once again offer praise and thanksgiving to the Almighty for His blessings upon this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Director, for your welcoming address. All right, ladies and gentlemen, would you now please join me in welcoming our moderator for today's forum, Dr. Ho Tin Tin. Dr. Ho, the floor is yours.
Welcome everyone to the webinar today, which will be conducted in the format of a forum. I'm Dr. Ho from the Language Department of the Institute for Teacher Education, Tun Abdul Razak campus, and I will be the moderator for today. Here with us, we have our esteemed panel from all over Malaysia. Between them, they have almost 100 years of experience combined, and we are very privileged to have them share their ideas with us today. First of all, we have with us Dr. H.C. Aslam Khan bin Samas Khan, who needs little introduction for most of our audience. Because if you have ever joined any event related to English language teaching, whether it's in Malaysia or internationally, chances are you would have seen Dr. Aslam there. He has had such a distinguished career that it would take up the rest of this seminar, of this webinar rather, for me to elaborate on that. So perhaps he will share with us some highlights later. Very glad to have you here with us, sir. Next on the panel, we have Dr. Joseph Ramanaya from University Malaysia Sarawak. And he has taught English language at various levels in educational institutions both locally and overseas. And he has a special interest in e-learning and teacher professional development. Welcome, Dr. Joseph.
Thank you, Dr. Ho.
Also on the panel, we have Dr. Shamini Sivavikaraman from the English Language Teaching Center, also better known as ELTC in Kuala Lumpur. Dr. Shamini's specialty is research and publication, so it is no surprise that she has numerous publications to her name. Welcome, Dr. Shamini. And last but not least, we have Dr. Nur Hasmiza binti Abu Hassan Sazali from University Technology Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and she is highly knowledgeable in mobile learning and digital entrepreneurship, having pursued her further studies in these fields, as well as having ample industrial experience as well. Ladies and gentlemen, there have been plenty of webinars and such on English language teaching over the past 2 years of 2020 and 2021, and teachers all over the world have received a lot of insights as well as practical help from all the sessions. But now it is time to look beyond these those days of movement control orders, MCOs, days of frantically trying to learn new skills for online teaching and learning, or excitedly learning new skills, as the case may be for some of us. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to think about life after the pandemic. That time of teaching and learning at home that will probably forever remain in our memories. This is the context for our webinar, which I hope we can all keep in mind as we discuss some very relevant issues. We have a bit of a mouthful when it comes to the theme of our webinar, but I would like to pick out the phrase new normal, which I think is a good starting point for our discussion today. New normal. Many English language teachers would analyze that as two adjectives in a row. And the teachers who are also grammar purists, the grammarians among us, may also feel that this is somewhat unacceptable. Why not new norms or current normality? There's room for discussion here on a linguistic basis. But ladies and gentlemen, I don't intend to lead you into a grammar debate this morning. Rather, let's take a look at a bit of history. Perhaps most of the audience have the impression, like me, like I did, that this phrase, new normal, was invented due to the COVID pandemic. Well, I found out that this term, new normal, has been in usage since at least 2004 in a book by Raja McNamee and David Diamond. But they were talking about taking advantage of the changing socioeconomic landscape at that time, not the pandemic. Later, the term was also widely used in 2008 during another kind of crisis, a financial crisis, which also caused a lot of changes and uncertainty worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to highlight that 2008 was literally a decade ago. So just how new is the new in new normal? If you think about it, new is one of those words that loses its meaning almost as soon as you use it. When people first started using new normal to describe life during the pandemic, it really did describe the situation because everything was new. But now it's been the new normal pandemic version for 2 years and counting. So, what are we actually talking about when we say new normal? There are so many things we could talk about in answering this question. But this morning, we will be focusing on English language teaching in particular. That brings me to the first question for the panel today. What are some major differences between the so-called old and new normal that English language teachers will need to address in their practices? Dr. Aslam, I'd like you to address this question to start us off. And while Dr. Aslam is collecting his thoughts, I would also like to inform the audience that you can type any questions that you may have for the panel in the live chat in YouTube and Facebook, and which we will get back to later at the end of the session. Also, the link for SPL KPM is now available for Malaysian teachers to scan or to click, as well as the link to get your e-certificate. And now let's hear from Dr. Aslam. Sir.
Myself. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Ho, for the moderator and for the introduction. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, to all educationists, wherever you are in the world. It may be good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yeah. And first and foremost, a huge thank you to Puan Anis Abdullah, the director of IPG campus Tun Razak, Sarawak, for the invitation. And it is a great honor to be with all my esteemed panelists from the TESOL family. Yeah. Okay, let's look at the first question uh, posed by Dr. Ho. Well, the pandemic has taken the whole world by surprise 2 years ago. Yeah, all industries were and are still affected. Yeah, and this includes the education sector. All right, and classroom classroom practices has all the practices have taken a new pathway and a new dimension. Yeah. Okay, I may not say that major changes, but more of teachers embracing the shift in the education landscape, which is more crucial and significant at this point. Yeah, we know that according to reports from from all over the world, that millions of students are affected and teachers are also affected. All right, then maybe if we are looking at it, I would say that the change is basically the delivery. All right, the delivery has shifted from from the face-to-face conventional mode, where we have the physical classroom, to the digital mode, which is basically online teaching and learning. So from the pedagogical perspective, yeah, from the pedagogical perspective, teachers or practitioners need to make adjustments in their teaching and learning approaches. Yeah, maybe to some teachers it is a major change, but those who are familiar with online teaching shouldn't have major issues. Yeah, I mean, we need to understand whether who are digital natives and who are digital immigrants. So maybe the platform that we are looking at, yeah, I would say that the pedagogical aspect and how we deal with teaching English language in the classroom may be more adjusted, so that we are looking at technology a little bit more. We are looking at digitalization. Yeah, I think all of us know. Yeah, all of us know that all teachers before the pandemic have been exposed to the concepts of theories, yeah, uh, concepts and theories of IR 4.0, 21st century education, and education 4.0. We know that the elements, yeah, if we internalize these elements, then the new normal is actually a normal. Yeah, I think the pandemic has basically kind of accelerated, yeah, all these concepts, theories, and the digitalization of education. Yeah, so this is where I would say that now we are taking digitalization, or using technology in education, as more urgent. Yeah, of course there are challenges, like I mentioned earlier. Yeah, between digital natives and digital immigrants. Yeah, online methodology may be quite challenging, but I believe there are always constructive solutions, providing training, resources, yeah, CPDs or professional networking, platforms, community involvement, and private-public collaborations, and policy makers who directly involved. These are some of the practical solutions. But I personally feel that, yeah, that teachers, we know that we as teachers are always passionate in our work, and we are able to absorb, yeah, to embrace these educational landscape shift, and then we adapt, adopt, and of course, yeah, in the end, we should be able to prevail in our endeavors. Yeah, with initiatives and support and collaboration, this shift, the shift in the, I would say the pedagogical shift will happen very quickly. Yeah, and I believe that there will not be a new normal, but a normal practice. So this is therefore very important that everyone, all stakeholders, need to play very vital roles. So that the new normal is no more a normal. I mean, a new normal, but it's just a normal practice. And in terms of pedagogical perspective, teachers can adapt and adopt. But of course, we are looking at, it's slightly different. It's no more the conventional physical classroom. It is more about looking at technology. We're looking at digitalization. So I may not say it's a major change, but a change in certain perspectives. And knowing teachers are teachers, they would be able to make the changes. And I believe and I have faith in all the teachers, not only in Malaysia, everywhere in the world. Yes, we can do it. We will change and keep abreast with the latest development in pedagogy. So I think for the time being, I'll stop here.
Okay, and what about the other panel members? Would you like to share as well with us on this question? What are the differences, major or otherwise?
Right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Ho. Thank you to the IPG for inviting us. I hope you can hear me. Right. I think our colleague, Dr. Aslam, has made a very good point about this change. And I am of the opinion that when you talk about this change, two things here which are very important. One is that change is constant. I think we all have to live with that. Secondly, it's not so much of a huge change from what is a new norm or from an old norm to a new norm. It's a question of strategic change. Throughout the points of education, we have gone through the times where we started off with non-technological aspects, then we moved on to electronic, then we moved on to the digital. So these changes have been with us. And what we as teachers, and I'm proud to say that many of our teachers can adapt to change quickly. And that's the good point, and that's the strength of our teaching profession across the world. The only sad thing that I felt was when this lockdown and pandemic and this virus went out, education was labeled as non-essential, when it is the most essential aspect, because we are engineers of the mind. Without teachers, where can the rest of the world be? Having said that, I also believe that as teachers, we need to unlearn, we need to relearn, we need to learn. And the point is on being brave to explore, to go into the unknown. And teachers handle the unknown every day in their classrooms. And I have no doubt that whatever shift happens from the old normal to the new norm or the new norm, our teachers are quite equipped in that because of how our curriculum, our teaching education curriculum has prepared us, which has changed over the years. So I believe that one of the most important major difference is that there will be increased opportunities for online learning, increased opportunities for online instructional approaches. Yeah, so that's from me for now. Over to you, Dr. Ho.
Can I add a little bit more?
Yes, please go ahead.
I think the only difference that I see in this particular situation is the word new and also the word old. And what has actually happened is a normalization has taken place. I just took two research papers just 2 days ago. Back in 2002, MIMOS Malaysia actually conducted a research, and they came up with narrowing down the digital divide in Malaysia issues and initiatives. And in 2021, we have way much more researchers conducted in what are the initiatives that we can take in order for us to assimilate and actually supplement the entire scenario of using technology excessively or exclusively. That means we were not lost in the 9 years. Let me just say the 2002 till the 2021. We didn't actually not use technology, or we were lost in the jungle just focusing on traditional teaching. There were a touch and go kind of thing, but now we have started assimilating, adopting, and started supplementing the teaching pedagogy in the classroom using technology excessively. So, what the focus should be is more on the students. My concern is more on how are we going to educate students in the new norm, slightly different from what they were actually gaining in the traditional classroom perspective. So what I gained was through the 2 years of course, we are all focusing on teaching teachers, but what I gathered from the teachers themselves is they realized the new norm gave more opportunity for independent learning in the student itself. They took accountability and autonomy of their learning style and their learning needs. And students became much more active in their learning. Of course, initially there were some, struggles, but now if you ask most of the students, they do not want to go back to the traditional type. They prefer learning at home. And also teachers. Okay. We want to teach, there's more flexibility in adapting to this situation. And students have become more connected to community. They start sharing information about current issues more freely, and then they know how to use technology in a much safer manner. They have become digital competent, and they have also learned a lot of living skills in the new normalization which took place, which is slightly, I would just say, a little bit different from the traditional teaching. Probably we will be talking about the difference between the traditional and the modern way of teaching. Let's not say old. I don't really like the word old. I think I always like to stay young, but let's just use the word traditional teaching classroom pedagogical methods compared to the latest technology infused kind of teaching in the classroom. I think with that, back to you, Ho.
Thank you, Dr. Shamini. And to round up the discussion for this question, can we have our final speaker?
Oh, thank you
Yeah,
so much. Thank you, Dr. Ho. I actually conducted some interview uh, to the to practitioners to get some answers from them actually. So I interviewed teachers and also students and also lecturers. So you get different opinion from these two different group of people. Well, basically, if you want to ask me about the differences between the old and the new way of teaching, it's actually about the SOP. Okay, so when you are teaching in school, no more touching, no more going very near to the students. Definitely, students have to wear masks all the time. So when I asked the teachers, so what's the difference between the traditional way and the new way? Of course, when they started teaching, it's a bit difficult to adjust to the new normal. Wearing masks, especially when they teach and everyone is wearing the mask and they feel uncomfortable. That one is very common. But now everything is they're used to it. Wearing mask is actually very important for safety precaution. And we have the KPM directive. Okay, I believe this information is very important, especially to the future teachers from your IPG, right? So you should know that with this directive, you're expected to really be conscious about this health measure. And then, of course, when we teachers teach, one skill that is very new among our teachers or among us right now is we can recognize our students just by looking at their eyes, right? By their body movement, and we can recognize people. So as compared before, right? Uh, and then especially if you talk about English language teaching, teaching speaking skills would be a bit challenging, especially if you teach online learning, right? You prefer to have your students in front of you so that you can speak with them, but with practice, I think practice makes perfect for all teachers and for all students to adapt to these changes. That's all from me. Thank you. Dr. Ho, you're muted.
Okay, pardon. Pardon me. So, as I was saying, when great minds come together, something beautiful happens. We've heard from different points of view, the teacher's perspective, the learner's perspective, and even from the perspective of research. And I think at this point, a good summary of what we have heard so far is that the so called new normal is going to become, or already is, even, everyday reality for ELT practitioners. Another point that I'm picking up is that we couldn't or shouldn't expect things to go back to exactly the way they were pre-pandemic. In a way, we could even say that this pandemic has accelerated the evolution of English language teaching. As the proverb goes, it's like the silver lining in the cloud, if you like. So, if we can't just return to the same tools and methods that we have used before, what then? Many of the panelists mentioned technology. If we created a word cloud from all the answers that we received just now on the first question, I think technology would definitely be the largest word there. So, what role will technology-based approaches play in a new normal, so-called new normal English language classroom? Dr. Joseph, I think you have an answer for that.
Right, thank you, Dr. Ho. To give you a very short answer to that question is technology will play an increasing role. And I think it has, is what Dr. Shamini has mentioned, and Dr. Nohasmisa and Dr. Aslam also. Now, when we talk about technology, I think we can't avoid from defining what it is. If we look at human civilization, you will see that technology has been used even from the Stone Age. We can't run away from technology. Okay, whatever we do, fundamentally, our human activity is always mediated. I would like to use this word mediated. It means we act in our world through something. And therefore, we are always goal oriented. So the question comes back to if you want to identify the role of technology in the classroom, we need to see it first or to view it first as a tool. It is a tool in which we want to achieve our objective. It is not a tool that uses us, but we make that tool a slave to our needs. And when we talk about students, as what Dr. Shamini, Dr. Nohasmisa has also said, the technology that we have, even the mask that we use is technology. How do we teach pronunciation, for example, when we are using or wearing masks? And the way we speak, and I have learned even on my own, when I first, I tend to rattle off half the time when I teach in the classroom. But when you are teaching online, you cannot rattle off. So the technology is there for us to use as a platform. Now, we have to understand, first of all, before I get to the heart of the question, the technology is not impartial. What I mean is that when you talk about technology, these are tools that have its own constraints, that has its own affordance. Now, Our job here, I think, as educators, engineers of the mind, is to see and to maximize the role of technology. What do you do? Because in the situation of the pandemic, we can see that there are areas where you can have the best state of the art, but the students don't have the devices that are required. You can have the best state of the art devices, but you don't have the connection. And you have very limited connection. What do you use? You see, prior to this, we were always taught and trained and educated that when you use technology, it should be used for something that a normal situation or a face-to-face cannot do, where a technology can do better. Never, I think, in anybody, in any e-learning practitioner's dream was to go full online, because the research indicates that blended learning is the way to go. But now that we are faced with this, we are sort of thrown into the situation, and we started off with emergency remote teaching. Now, here's what I would like to say with regards to the role that technology plays. Number one, we know that when it comes to technology, we need to be selective of the technology to achieve our objective. What technology can be used to achieve the objective I want in a lesson? However, there is an added perspective now where we also have to see what are the connections available. Are my students able to communicate? Am I able to connect? You can't communicate if you cannot connect. All right. So here we see many instances, even myself, we've got students in longhouses where generators only run after 6 p.m. And that's the time they charge their phones. And some have to go by the river, some have to climb a tree. We had the incident of a student in Sabah. So I find myself in the beginning communicating to connect with them through very minimal apps like WhatsApp, Telegram, and I'm cautious of not using too much images, videos, sending more text, PDF, because these are the areas where we need to improvise, where we need to understand that our audience are students, and students have their own share of challenges. As Dr. Shamini has mentioned a lot, that when we do this, we need to think about our students. So having said that, when we talk about technology, there is an added perspective here. You can use the technology, but at the end of the day, is that going to achieve your objective? So at the end of the day, we need to recognize that technology can only mediate. It can not only, sometimes it doesn't assist us. Sometimes it does. You've got to use the right technology to connect. Now, what happens in these areas with low electricity or no electricity, and there are frequent blackouts? I have students from particular states that experience this even during the exam. So we always have to have plan B, plan C. And I think a lot of teachers in time took to their stride and are able to adjust. I think that's the beauty of the teaching environment, where we continuously adjust, but at the same time, in using technology and the role that is increasing, we also need to take a step back and see that you can't expect just the teachers to take all the burdens today. It has to be where we are learning and teaching anywhere, anytime has become a reality. We are teaching across space, across time. Teaching comes from your own household. Learning is in your household. It takes the concerted efforts of not only the teacher, but the parents, the school, the administrators, the guru besar, the pengetua, the policy makers have to come in and support both instructional and learning approaches. And in this sense, we have to understand that our learning has become something where it can happen anywhere and anytime. I've got students who tell me that they have to sit in a cafe, and when there is a lockdown, they can't go anywhere. Students who sit in a car and their parents are driving them here and there. And there are teachers who actually go all out in areas that there are no electricity, bless them, because they go to the houses of these students, give out exercises and say, do this, and gather some students together under a tree, teach them. You have approaches by teachers where they send exercises to schools. These are also forms of technology. They may not be digital, but this is a technology, and I call it print technology. Okay? And this is where I think teachers have thrown in a lot of effort in making learning happen. And they alone should not be allowed to bear this burden, because this is a huge challenge. But their commitment says it all. And their commitment can only work, the technology can only work if they have that commitment. And the teachers have given their commitment for this. Now, we talk about media applications for schools that have got good internet connection. That's a given, it's not an issue. But then how do you get students to come on online? We've got a recent, I think it was answered in Parliament, the number of students who have dropped out of school. Again, we are faced with the basic challenge. Even in the classroom, how do we engage our learners? It's no different, but only that the platform has changed. So going back to sum up very quickly what I was trying to say is that when it comes to the question of technology, and it comes to the question of tools for technology and its increasing role, what role does it play? The role can only be played when a teacher has an informed focus. What is it that you are trying to achieve with the technology should be the main issue. We are going back to the fundamentals of technology, computer assisted language learning, mobile assisted language learning, where the pedagogy should be moving the technology and not the other way around. But given that too, we find that the technology also determines, because we can't use all kinds of technology at our disposal, given the situation. Over to my fellow panelists, maybe they have something to say.
Yes. Is there anyone who would like to add on? Otherwise, we will move on.
Yeah, I think, I think Dr. Joseph has kind of, presented a very clear picture about technology. Yes, one thing all of us need to know, technology is not the end. It is a means to the end, a means to an end. Therefore, technology is not the master. Technology is our servant in that sense. Yeah, it's undeniable. Okay, it is really undeniable that this pandemic has given rise to the importance, to the significance of technology in education, because technology provides students with easy to access information. It will accelerate learning and fun opportunities, to practice what they learn. It enables students to explore new subjects and deepen their understanding of difficult concepts. So technology is going to be here to stay. So therefore, when we have that understanding, we have that shift in us as teachers. We need to have that shift, the mindset shift. We have to move into digitalization, yeah, or else we will be left behind. So whether you are a digital native or immigrant, we need to move towards digitalization. But moving into digitalization is not as simple as switching on your computer, your laptop, done. No, there are many factors involved, like what Dr. Joseph has mentioned. Understanding technology literacy, understanding digital literacies, and I think the best part is the ability to adapt technology in our classroom practices. So if we can have that whole understanding of how technology is to be used in the classroom for the betterment of teaching and learning, not for the teacher only, but more for the outcome of the teaching and learning. So it is the learning that is important. I think all of us agree. Learning is more important. Yeah, achieving the outcome. Then I would say we are on the right track. So teachers out there, not to worry. It's not about whether how experienced or how lack of experience you have, but the important thing is that if you are willing to learn, then you can move on with digitalization in education. the sky is the limit. Just go for it, even though you are.
Well said. Well
Some will
said.
say, yes,
Yeah.
I'm nearing retirement. No,
Yes. Thank you.
and
Yes.
Yeah,
enjoy
well said,
even
Doctor.
after retirement. Yeah.
Okay, I think I need to move on, keeping the time in mind. So just a reminder to keep those comments and questions coming, ladies and gentlemen, and to register for your e-certificate with the link given, and also do make use of the SPL KPM link if you are a Malaysian teacher. As Dr. Aslam was saying, technology is here to stay in our classrooms, whether these classrooms are physical or virtual ones. And this brings us to an issue that many practitioners feel very strongly about. We can see this even in the chat, um, which is namely the availability of technology, or more precisely, the lack of technology, particularly technology that is related to internet access. Poor internet, not enough gadgets to go around the children in the family. This was a constant and, dare I say, almost universal problem for all parties during the remote teaching and learning. But I don't think this problem will just go away now that we are having face-to-face interactions again, particularly after hearing what the panel has shared just now. And there is a possibility that the greater the role of technology in education, the larger the digital divide will become. So, what can be done then to prevent this digital divide from further marginalizing learners without internet access? In asking this question, I would also like to limit the scope a little to what can be done through classroom practices. Because there are, of course, other solutions by improving infrastructure, for example, or intervention through policy. But for today, let's keep it in the classroom, so to speak. So, shall we begin with Dr. Shamini on this one?
Yeah, thank you, Ho. Um, Very interesting, and probably a question that many teachers would want to know, uh, whether what they are actually doing. I wouldn't say something that they are not doing, because we are slowly going back into the classroom scenario, carrying with us the luggage of having digital competency and skills or proficiency itself with us now. But they would want to now validate and also get more support for what they are trying to do, uh, to narrow down this gap that has marginalized learners without internet access, and also the ones with internet access. So basically, what we want to discuss here, or what I want to bring everyone's attention to, is what schools can actually do for students with internet, and of course without internet. This is what the focus of the school should be. Now, when I say school, of course it involves, like what Dr. Joseph says, uh, the teachers, the school heads, who are the pengetua and the guru besar, and also the stakeholders like the parents. So let's see what these people can actually do to support students without internet access at home. So it looks like we have already concluded that learners without internet access are being marginalized and are being digitally divided. In the question itself, it says like there is a gap between the ones that have internet access and not have the internet access. So what does actually digital divide here mean to us, or mean to the teacher? There could be two. We've been talking about technology, technology, technology. There's something more through technology. There is something more in front of technology, or at the back of technology, I would say. uh, the information that we get from technology. Are we just focusing on technology itself, or are we now focusing on what kind of information that I can get via the technology, or using the technology, and then transfer it to the students? So now here we need to think about, uh, two different things. Uh, am I going to provide only the technology, or am I focusing on providing my students some information from the internet or from the technology to my students who do not have the internet access? Okay, so teachers have to think of two things. Are we only going to talk about providing my students access to the internet and providing them all the facilitation of having the privilege of using technology? Or am I going to focus on whatever that I can, channel out, churn out from the internet itself, and then provide to my students who do not have the access to the internet, which I believe every teacher can do it, because we have the access to the internet and we assume that they don't have the access. The students do not have the access. Okay, so something to further think about. Are we marginalizing learners to the information from internet or access to technology itself? And is everything from the internet, all the information from the internet, relevant? Are students without internet still able to get information from the internet from other sources? And what are sufficient technology for learning? So these are a few questions I want to throw back to the audience. Probably I know the answers and all of us know the answers. Probably the viewers would want to think further about what is it really that you are doing in your classes that is marginalizing the learning of the student itself. So your role as the teacher is to think about, is it just the technology or the information from technology or the internet itself? Okay. Now, I personally feel that for me, I feel the digital divide is pertaining to access to technology and not information from internet. So the problem now is, the issue is students are not able to get access. I mean, all, not all. I think 20 to 30% of Malaysian students, through research has been validated that 30% of our students do not get an access to internet itself. But teachers are working their ways out to actually get all the information that they can from internet itself and provide to the student. This is already happening now. So information can actually be transferred by our teachers even without technology or the internet. So how is this actually happening? um, they go home and then there's no internet. So now the teachers have to think, when they go back home there's no internet, so what can I do? Firstly, start seeking resources from home. I think Dr. Joseph actually mentioned this now, how you can use resources in the house itself, coming from the parents' assistance. Even you can actually read up on generational learning, where they even get the grandparents to be involved in their learning as well. So you can see how it's not really the modern learning. Now we're going back to the traditional ways of learning, where you were when you were young, you were babysitted by your grandparents, ato, nene and all will be there sitting with you and guiding you to do your work, because mommy and daddy is working from home, or has gone far to work. So it's not just the parents, it's grandparents as well. So this is called like some generational learning capacity that we have. So parental assistance, parents' engagement in fulfilling student learning needs, and also we have the TV Pendidikan. So I hope with the fundings and all that are provided for parents of the B40 group or whatever, at least provide a TV in the house. So with the TV and all the proper equipments, a radio or something, at least the students get the information from the TV Pendidikan. The lessons are going through in TV. A lot of funding has been channeled for TV Pendidikan from KPM. So make use of this platform. Number two, increase students' active classroom learning time in the classroom. So make maximum use of the classroom itself. You can even extend learning time in school, whereby students work on projects, on problems, on assignments, module based where they work on a certain activity in sequence, and tap on the creativity on students, innovate new things, break brainstorm ideas where you don't need technology, actually you just need otak kan. So, and also there's something called homework gap, which is very much connected to digital divide. Why the students are facing anxiety at home without internet access is also because they cannot complete their homework, the task or the assignment or the syllabus that is being required for them to complete. So that's kind of stress and anxiety in the students. My friends completed the task that teacher gave, and I can't do it. So how can you do? What can you do? Catch up plans to reduce this homework gap. This is called what we can actually do is back to many years, where we can provide the entire module in a CD-ROM. So students have desktop, or assuming that they have a computer or a laptop device in their house, they don't have internet access, but they can play a CD. So if you can upload all your materials into a CD format, whereby students install the app into their phone or laptop and then complete the activities guided by the teacher's voice. It used to happen many years ago where we provide teachers with CDs. We never had internet access then. So we can bring back the technology of using CD. This can be accompanied by also a hard copy module as an assessment, which need to be submitted to the teacher time to time, and give them more time to work on all these kind of things, because they don't have the access to internet and uploading services or access or facility, but they have the capability or ability to type into their desktop or something, and then at least print out the material and then hand it over to the teacher as hard copy. And if I want to talk a little bit about providing access of technology, then there are several measures to consider by the relevant authorities. I think the five of us here can just give the suggestions, but we always need the higher authorities approving and providing the funding for us to what to say, make this happen. All right. One thing that I can suggest, a few things I can suggest here, is like a one-stop Wi-Fi access center for all the students, which is happening in many other countries in the world. They even have a bus that provides Wi-Fi, so students get into the bus and then they get to use the Wi-Fi. And some have even community hall where the parents and the child can walk into the hall for free. Okay, access of internet is free. And also reduce the price of all these devices, especially for school students. They say that computers are much cheaper nowadays, but I don't think so it is any cheaper. I just got my new laptop with very basic apps in it for 3,200, and I don't think it's cheap. And being a teacher, I don't get any subsidy myself. Okay, nothing. And thank God IPG is giving all the lecturers a free laptop after I got the laptop. So it's a blessing. And finally, digital competency. I think even without internet, we need to infuse a little bit of knowledge to our students who do not have the access of internet, especially cyber ethics, cyber safety. And because some of our children, when they suddenly get the access to internet, they become excited. So I think it's the teacher's role also to guide these students who sometimes have access and sometimes do not have access, on how to use the information or navigating information from the internet safely. Okay, so cyber security, cyber safety is another issue that we need to talk to our students about to reduce the gap in this digital divide. So other than that, I feel uh, that should not be a divide anymore. If we are talking about providing the information for students without the access, I think it's about time that the teachers should think about not the technology, but how are you going to transfer the information from the technology to your students without the access to internet. Close my case.
Thank you,
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you,
yeah,
Dr. Shamini. That was really thought provoking for me because
Yeah, a lot of things I
uh,
threw back to the viewers.
yes, because
Can I
I
just
think
jump in here? Sorry, Dr. Ho. Can I just jump in
sorry,
very quickly to what Dr. Chamini has said? Yes, the divide, I agree with you. In fact, we should be looking at efforts towards narrowing this divide, because sometimes this divide seems to be a very capitalist agenda, so that you can create more divide so that it's easier for you to probably sell products. But that said, I think a lot of efforts have been done, even for example by the state government, by giving out even devices and airtime for students to use their mobile phones. And another very quick thing also, I think we need to look at practices in terms of our assessment. Assessment plays a very important role. We have two kinds of assessment when we think of assessment: assessment of learning, where you have public exam, final exam, semester exam. I think that has taken a change now. We don't have UPSR anymore. I think it's school based, if I'm not mistaken, yes. And now we are moving to assessment for learning, where assessment is seen as a continuous process throughout the teaching and learning to adjust and improvise instructional strategy. So I think we need to look more into our classroom practices with regards to assessment for learning. I think that has to change. We have to move in that direction. And I for one, am championing school-based assessment. And I think our teachers are very qualified when it comes to that, because who else knows students better if not the teachers? Yeah, that's all from me.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think,
As okay, Dr. Aslam,
Dr. Ho,
you would like, yes. I
I
think we
think
can give it a few more minutes. Yes, from Dr.
okay,
Aslam.
technology is meant to enhance the curriculum and be used in context with it. So I'm looking at two perspectives. Yeah, one, the administration and the management, and secondly, the classroom practices, the pedagogical perspective. Yeah. Now, from what Dr. Shamini and Dr. Joseph have mentioned, now we can see that, in order for us to bridge the gap, okay, we don't want the divide. So this is where we are looking at the administration and the management of technology in education. So these are aspects that we need to understand: the policymakers, the stakeholders, and there must be some kind of a think tank, not ad hoc. So there must be that. I mean, like people who are in
Absolutely,
authority.
absolutely.
Yes, there must be a clear guideline. So these things then will be transferred to classroom practices or interpreted by the teachers. But for teachers, not to worry, because you know your students best. So you contextualized and personalized how you use technology in your teaching and learning. So maximize the resources you have. Don't say that, oh, since I don't have internet, that's the end. No. There are many ways where schools can look into it. For example, taking advantage of the community resources. I'm just giving an idea where, let's say, in a remote area, if there's a community hall which can put in 60, 70 people, put the students inside there, put a big screen there, and then let's have classroom in the community hall where 60 students with limited internet access can have some kind of teaching and learning for themselves. Yeah. So this is where, I mean, maybe pronouns, or there are many things. So I think there are two perspectives: the management and administration, and the pedagogical aspect of it. For teachers, always remember, you cannot do things alone. Always work in a group. because like we
Exactly.
always say that, right? You'll never walk alone. We work together. Then I think management administration, one perspective, please adhere to all these, the SOP or whatever, procedures, but the classroom practices, leave it to the teachers. They know their students best, and they will maximize the resources available, the needs of the learners, the learning styles, the teaching style, all put it nicely, package it so that whatever you are teaching and students are learning in the right and effective manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aslam. And Dr. Nohasmiza, would you like to add on anything, or shall we move on?
Okay, this is a quick one. In order to answer the question, I know this is actually one thing that future teachers would like to know. What can they do to further prevent the digital divide? First of all, number one is offline teaching. They have to know how to do offline teaching. Number two, hybrid or high flex. High flex means hybrid and flexible. Okay, use WhatsApp, use Telegram, use TikTok, use whatever social media used by the students so that you can engage with the students. And number three, modular based teaching. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, so that was short and sweet from Dr. Nohasmiza. And I think I have had my eyes opened from the answers to this question, because I've uh, not really thought about the digital divide in terms of being two different issues, which is access to technology and what comes out of using technology, or the information that Dr. Shamini was talking about. And I'm sure that this has gotten a lot of the audience members who are teachers to start thinking about, what actually am I using technology for? What am I doing with technology in my classroom practices? Am I using technology because I have to, for the sake of using technology? And by this self-reflective practice, I think some of us might come to a realization that, it's not that terrible after all, that this digital divide exists and so on. And there is something we can actually do about it, even as a lowly, humble teacher, not a policy maker, in the classroom, face to face with the students and learners that we love and care for. Um, I would like to once again draw your attention, in a change of tone, to the registration link for all participants to get your e-certificates, and also for SPL KPM if you're a Malaysian teacher. And as we draw to a close, let's move to a question that perhaps the audience will find more personally relatable, which is, what skills do teachers and practitioners need to equip themselves with to further evolve and thrive in an increasingly digitalized pedagogical landscape? Dr. Nur Hasmiza, we would like to
Okay.
hear more from you.
Right, thank you so much. Sorry for the. Okay. That's a new norm, right? Having your children coming
That's
in,
very
coming out.
cute, little girl. It's okay. It's a new norm.
That's the time whenever she knows I'm coming, I'm gonna talk, then she start coming. Okay, my answer to that is because in UTM I'm also a person who train the lecturers when it comes to teaching this new technology, and I would like to also share that in order to get your answers, in order to get the answers for your questions, I always like to ask the practitioners. So my answers to that is number one, they need to be resilient teachers, teachers who have to, we have no choice but we have to become a resilient teachers. We have to be a resourceful person. Okay, we should be able to adapt to changes. That's the most important thing, number one. Okay, if you cannot adapt to this new normal, then it's going to be very difficult. That's number one. Number two, go and learn new things. Based on my experience, I even joined a lot of Telegram groups, which created by teachers, where they share resources. Okay, how to teach technology devices, which one is better, Apple or Mac. You know what? They always do this. This is one thing about teachers. They are very resourceful. they join these activities. And I'm not talking about teachers who are just young, okay, teachers who varies in terms of the age. So of course the young ones, the digital natives, we are here to help the immigrants. So play our role, okay. What are the things that these new teachers and also the not so young teachers can do, besides of course you can wait for your for the trainings given by the by the school, but actually let's just not wait, okay. What you can do for the teachers outside there, go and join Microsoft, go and become Microsoft certified educators. It's actually free, all right. Just go and Google Microsoft under the education there. You can learn perhaps half an hour or 1 hour, 2 hours, up to you, and then you can get certificates. So you can get skills on how to teach using these digital tools. Another option is, of course, to become Apple certified educators. But for me, based on my experience, I would say that becoming Microsoft certified educators is easier as compared to Apple, because because most teachers, I mean, everybody has a computer, right? Usually, teachers, we are more familiar with the software of the Microsoft. Of course, some teachers, they use Apple. So I myself use Apple, but I also join Microsoft certified educator. So as a teacher, you have the choice, so number one, change your mindset to become a person who is resilient, resourceful, be able to adapt to changes, and number two, go and learn new things. In the future, AR, of course, will be implemented, augmented reality. Okay, big data is something that is to inform our decision. So get ready with that, and we're going to have also AI, okay, artificial intelligence. So if we teachers are not ready to change, so it's going to be too bad to for our students. That's all from me. Thank you.
Yeah, so some practical tips from Dr. Nuhasmiza about what courses you can join, and there are all those groups that teachers themselves have set up to provide help and advice to their peers in terms of using technology. And apart from technological skills, okay, what other skills do you think would become relevant? If the other panel members have anything to add.
Yeah, I think for teachers, yeah, now you never stop learning. Like what Dr. Hasmiza has mentioned just now, it's not about being young teachers, novice teachers, or experienced teachers. There's always something to learn. There's always something to learn. And based on our theme today, we are looking at the new normal, or what is mentioned, evolving and thriving in terms of looking at the pedagogical landscape. Teachers need to understand is professional development that is very crucial to move on. Now, you see, nowadays it's quite easy. We don't have to pay for a flight to Korea or Japan or to Sarawak for that matter. It's all online. So this is where I think all of us in a panel will agree that teachers, please take this opportunity, yeah, to attend professional development programs or courses or webinars. This is where you learn and then share it with other people. I know it's not easy. We all know it's not easy. Yeah, time constraint, this and that. But we need to have a commitment, a dedication as teachers of English language, that there's always room for us to develop, to keep abreast with the latest development. Because through readings, through attending sessions like this, through participating in research work, you should be able to grasp some knowledge, get some insight, and move on. Because then you will tell yourself, I am going to make sure that I belong to the current crop of educationists. Yeah. But whatever it is, whatever has been said and about all these new normal, we must understand that the pandemic has given us opportunities. Number one, research innovations. Number two, technological innovations. And number three, like what we mentioned just now, yeah, Dr. Joseph and Dr. Chamini, about the divide, that it is also a socio-economic interventions that need to be looked into. Then we should be okay. So as we said just now, as what Dr. Hasmiza has mentioned, that teachers be the active learners, be the participants in every aspect. Every webinars or programs that you attend, you will pick up some very valuable pedagogical points to be used in your classroom. But just remember, I'm repeating one quote, yeah, which I've written for all teachers. We need to note and ponder. Contextualize and justify your selection of all the mentioned tasks and activities which you use in a classroom based on your learner's language competence, maturity, learning styles, acceptance, socio-economic status, syllabus, curriculum requirements, availability of resources, and other factors which, to your knowledge, will affect learning and teaching. Being the practitioner, you know best of the content and the pedagogical needs of your learners. No, there's no such thing as one hat fits all. So it is in your hands, teachers. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Joseph and Dr. Shamini, anything to add?
Can I just quickly jump in and echo what my good friend Dr. Aslam has mentioned? There's no one hat fits all, and there's no one size fits all. And we've been saying this for many, many years. And I think it has now come to us in reality, and reality bites, that when we talk about no one size fits all, now is even becoming more relevant and becoming more real, because we have trained our teachers. And when I talk about training, I don't mean just attending professional training that is formalized. Conversations with your colleagues, forming interest groups, WhatsApp discussions, conversations, those are and should be recognized as well as a continuous professional development. But at the same time, the adaptability, the ability to be open to learn. I think teachers, we are good at that position because we deal so much with teaching. We know how learning happens. For us to learn is easy if you don't see it as a burden. That's from me.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Joseph. I think what we can gain from this question on what we need to learn is that as teachers, we never stop learning. And indeed, the informal slogan for our language department here is Docendo Discimus, which is when one teaches, two learns. So I think that's a very good spirit to have. And from the chat so far, I can see that the audience are full of teachers who are excited about learning new skills, learning new things, so that they themselves can enrich their personal growth and so on. In addition to being of benefit to their learners. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be moving on to the question and answer segment very soon. So if you have any questions, be sure to get them into the live chat. But before that, let's have a quick sum up from the speakers if they have any final thoughts that they'll like to share with us. And I would like to start with Dr. Shabini. What would you like the audience to take away from this webinar today?
I think ongoingly I've been sharing in the YouTube live chat some of my opinions on teachers having reluctancy in them to try something new or to adapt or to assimilate I'm surprised that it has been already 2 years, and we are still talking about the same uh, issues. So I just want to you know um, not really motivate, but to share my plight that we are still on the bright side of many things that are happening in the world. I think Malaysia is still, we still have a lot of access to facilities and funding. We're not like some other countries in the world where student or the teacher needs to travel far to get information in hand. So make use of these um, immediate facilities that you have around you, and be yeah, I like the word resilient. I also like to share my plight on don't be ignorant of the situation that you are in, and being ignorant as well as adamant at where you are. I don't want to move, I don't want to change, I'm old school, I'm going to retire in 2 years. uh, you know so not old school, traditional school. And so with that, I hope you will take back some of the encouragement or points that we shared in this session today, on the good side. Okay, take all on the good side, and participate and be engaged in the scenario or situation that you are in, because we could uh, come back to the situations again and again, and then we could go back to what we were earlier. So always be prepared to change and assimilate, and dwell in the teaching that you are in. Also be very glad that we all share a similar curriculum. We have the DSKP. For English, we have standardized CFR levels, where things are all standardized, and it is not like different from state to state. So it will not be of very difficult for teachers uh, to come up with catch up plans, or plan your classroom activities from now on, or currently what you are doing, despite having the internet access or not, or technology or not. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Dr. Shamini. And shall we move on to Dr. Nuhasmiza? We would love to hear more from you.
Okay. From my observation, I can see that when especially teachers have to teach online, right? You started to use a lot of Kahoot, Padlet, quizzes, word wall, Pedag, Jamboard. My advice to all teachers and also future teachers is, yes, these are the tools that you can explore, but you'll be overwhelmed with so many tools because more tools are coming up. There'll be a time when, oh my God, I cannot stop. Too many things. How many things should I know now? In fact, if we talk about the platform where you can meet, the latest that I know, I've been using Meet, I've been using WebEx, Zoom, StreamYard. The latest that I used few days ago is Meet. I'm not sure whether all of you have used Meet or not. you know there are just too many things coming out. But one advice that I will give to everyone, especially to new teachers, especially to current teachers, is you choose one and you really master one. Especially those who are teaching in school, they have dilemma. Dilemma means all the tools that they can use from Google. Sorry, from the Google apps. Okay, so in dilemma itself, is the one paid by our government. Make sure you learn all the tools in Delima in Google, because it's free. It's something that our government has paid. Master that. Oh my God, you do a lot of wonders. You after this, when you what do you call it, when you organize online programs, they just submit their what do you call it, their details in your Google form, and automatically you can just the certificate is generated from there. You don't have to type anymore, all the traditional way of doing certificates. So all the tools that are in the Lima in the Google apps actually. So you get one, master it, and then you're happy. Don't worry. Once you know this, whatever things coming in, you know how to handle. That's from me. Thank you.
Yeah. So in this case, don't become a jack of all trades. Yeah, because you'll be master of none. Instead, you should master one thing and be really good at it and know what you're doing there. And that's how, if that's how you would like to take things, then it's perfectly fine. Or as the young people say nowadays, you do you.
You do you. Most
Yeah.
important thing is be resilient. You know, if you have a positive mindset, you can only do this if you have a positive mindset. You are
Yeah.
a person with high tolerance of ambiguity. Whatever things coming out, you know, if you're a person with high tolerance of ambiguity, give it. Come on, challenge. I can manage. That's the
Actually,
thing that you
yeah, true,
can
true.
do actually.
Here,
Yeah.
here.
And Dr. Joseph, would
Yes,
you like to share about?
I was very much interested in listening with what Dr. Nur Hasmiza said. I would like just to add on when we talk about you've got so many technological tools. Sometimes you just can't keep up. Our job is not to keep up with it. All right, because when you see, for example, I'll be honest with you. This is the first time I've used this StreamYard. Okay, we actually had a trial run, but hey, it's the same thing as Zoom, as WebEx, as Google Meet. The interfaces are almost the same because we have technologists and software developers who understand our needs. When we come with technology, I mean, who on earth, if anybody can correct me, buys a new smartphone and reads the manual on how to do it? We just know. Look at our children. You just give them a smartphone, they know what to do with it. They probably teach you what to do with it. And I learned from my students so much. How do you do with TikTok? I've got to even ask them, how do you actually, put words behind when I'm teaching? And my students taught me that. It's interesting. And I always tell my students, Google, you have a question, Google it. Find the many answers. Discern what is correct, what is true. This is something that we have to provide to our students. Okay, and at the same time, as what Dr. Nohasmiza mentioned, if you have the openness to learn, teacher disposition is very important. Do you want to learn? Do you want to take this as a challenge? Yeah, go for it. And I know most teachers, I mean, I was very, very touched with teachers who travel miles just to get to their students. I mean, what else, what more can we ask of our teachers? Teachers who would go all to great lengths, leaving homeworks in school, getting the parents to pick up, and parents were also dedicated. A lot of parents are very much dedicated, maybe because the curriculum has changed so much over the years, so most of the parents may not be familiar with what is being taught in school, but they make the effort. And this is where I would like to, emphasize here that the involvement of all, it's not the teachers who should, go through these challenges. It must be a concerted effort of everyone. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Joseph. And I feel you, as the young people say again, because when I started out thinking about questions for this webinar, I I kind of thought that this would be all about teachers, classrooms, curriculum. But this morning we've heard about parents getting involved. We've heard about teachers learning from learners. So, it goes across the board. Everyone learns and everyone learns from everyone else. So we've got some very thought-provoking remarks from the panel so far. But for our grand finale, let's hear from the very experienced, very passionate, and very positive Dr. Aslam.
Thank you. I think our panelists have really, given lots of insights. Yeah. For me, I just want to share what the founder of Empower Education has to say. Yeah. Francis Jim Toscano. He says the new normal when we're looking at digitalization is not just about online learning and teaching. It's not about that. Yeah. He shared this. He said, we need to understand also that it is Maslow before Bloom. Don't only look at the cognitive. The Maslow hierarchy needs, we need to look at that also. So it is also Maslow before Bloom should be also a new battle cry in education. And then we need to understand equitable access matters more than ever, so that we don't have the divide. The gap is not that wide. Then there are multiple pathways of learning delivery should be considered, okay, in an emergency learning continuity program. So it's not just something that is fixed. It's something on the shelf that you take and this is how you're going to do it. So we must look at emergency learning continuity program. And then, of course, better funding, stronger support, more relevant professional development for teachers need to be prioritized. Okay, put the teachers as the agent of this necessary change. All right, and then we have sound pedagogy that drives the use of online tools and resources. Then we review the purpose of assessments and grades in times of emergency. Nothing is fixed, yeah? So most of these are very fluid. Then we have to forge stronger school community and external partnerships. All right, and looking at digitalization, you have to look at privacy, safety, security, and digital well-being. That's crucial. And then flexibility, adaptability, and empathy. These are essential skills in navigating uncertain times. So we need to look at it, reimagine the whole thing. All right. So for teachers out there, what Toscano has shared are crucial for us to reflect. And not only teachers, I think policymakers reflect on this and then come together, because we are all in it together. If we want to elevate English language education, not only in Malaysia, in the world, then we all have to sit down, put our minds, thoughts, and soul into it, and come up with the best contextualized solutions for our teachers and our learners. Then we will achieve, inshallah, God willing, the intended set goals and outcomes in our teaching and learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Aslam. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the most interactive segment of our webinar today, so to speak, where we will address some of the questions that we have received from the audience. We would love to answer all of you, but unfortunately, we have to work with a time constraint, so we will only be able to talk about some of the most interesting questions. And here we have an interesting question, a very practical one about workload. So the question goes, does digitalized education create more work for the teachers? Since they have to do a lot of work before class, especially if we're talking about, not the technology itself, but the information that we get through technology. So, anybody would anybody like to say something about that?
Could I jump in here, Dr. Ho? I love that question. I
Yeah,
was
sure. You
looking
got
at
the
it.
question. Oh, great.
Yes. And well, whatever we do, change is constant, and with change comes pain. Okay. And in my role, I also train university lecturers on teaching technology as well. And when I say that when we use technology, and the first time round, it's painful. It's a lot of work, because you see, teaching with technology allows you not only the flexibility, but at the same time, it will also reveal a lot of weaknesses. And you need to be always on the constant thing. You got to go at least once or two times to do it, and then you get the hang of it. And I always tell my colleagues, look, there are many lessons. I think one of us brought the issue of being modular. There are many lessons that you want to deliver. But you see, with English language, when we talk about finishing, when does language have an end? That's one. Secondly, when you look at it, you don't have to change every learning unit. You must do something spectacular. Start with one first. Start with one, get the hang of it. In the next semester, start with another one. If you have 5, you probably would have done 3. Continue. And by the time of 2 years, you would have everything rolling. Keep doing and keep improvising on that. And you'll be there and you will not see it as a burden. Trust me. The first time, yes, it will always be a burden. It's painful. Change is constant and it's painful. Yeah, that's all for me.
Can I add a little bit, Ho?
Of course, go
Um,
ahead.
yeah, adding on to Dr. Joseph on the I think it comes to the attitude, teachers' attitude of whether they want to gain more knowledge, and gaining more knowledge is considered increasing workload. So I'm very confused about some teachers thinking that gaining more knowledge or upskilling and relearning as increasing their workload. It should not be that. It is your profession, it is your career. And going back to the digital divide that we were talking about earlier, digital divide may not only be caused by not having access to the information or technology. Digital divide can also be created by the teacher themselves, the teacher's attitude of being reluctant into equipping themselves with what is needed in the current situation. And now, what we need is technology, digital competency. If you don't want to equip yourself with that and think that it is increasing your workload, then it goes back to your attitude. So this is what I think teachers need to focus on. Um, you may be the person yourself creating the digital divide or the gap, or you may be the one trying not to narrow down the existing gap itself. And bear in mind, you are victimizing children of the future generation.
Yes. So, baby steps, as recommended by Dr. Joseph. When we are faced with a situation in which we need to change, there are many ways of dealing with it. As you know, we all know, we could do the ostrich move where we hide our heads in the sand and pretend, oh, there's no change, I don't need to change. We could do denial. Similar to the ostrich move, no, there's no need to change. The pandemic's over. I can go back to my chalk and talk and my good old blackboard and textbook. Or we can embrace the change and do what we can, as much as we can, to face it. Yeah. I also like what Dr. Joseph said about, not, you don't need to have fireworks every single lesson. There will be lessons that are not so technologically heavy. There will be some quite old-fashioned lessons, but there will also be the lessons in which you use digital resources very effectively and excite not just your learners but yourself. Um, if you had asked me 3 years ago, would I ever be, using all these technological tools? I'll give you a definite no. I'm a dinosaur. I know nothing about technology. But I've surprised myself how much I've learned, and I've amazed myself with all the things that I've been able to do just by learning. So, Dr. Shamini said this is a matter of attitude. Okay, do we have any more questions? What about this one? If we're going to use technology in our classrooms, does it mean that our learners in Malaysian schools, does it mean that they should be allowed to bring all their handphones and gadgets into class because they're not allowed to at the moment?
For me, it's a yes. But teachers can still control, because whatever it is, students are still students, they're still children. There's a tendency that where they cannot control themselves, there's a tendency that they cannot know that, oh my God, there's a limit to this. Being a parent myself, even though I highly encourage teachers and students to use technology, but being a parent, I understand. I still have to, there's a cut off time, where internet is off. You sleep now. Give me all your device, and I still doing it to my secondary kid children actually. what more if you allow primary school students to bring a device? They'll be happy. It's like, wow, it's a freedom day for them. But you still have to, this is the digital citizenship skill that you have to teach them actually. They should be, when they have that, they should know that this some websites are not supposed, they're not supposed to go some websites, they're not supposed to watch and, do not so good things from the websites. I think that's for me actually.
Yeah, this is kind of like the other side of the coin. Just now we've been talking about learners who have no access to gadgets and internet. And here on the other end of the spectrum, we have the parents worried about too much screen time, because we've all been told, and there's research to show that, it's not good to spend hours and hours looking at the screen and, getting too immersed the virtual world and all that. So it's kind of the other end of the story, or the other side of the coin. Dr. Joseph, did you want to say something about this as well?
Yeah,
I,
what's important? I mean, it's a yes and a no. I mean, a lot of students grapple, a lot of schools actually grapple with, should we allow our students some mobile phones and all that? It's a yes and a no. I mean, there was a point in time where schools experimented with casual dressing. And then first time we had it, there was a lot of problems. Schools were complaining, all students are not coming in proper. They had to set a kind. But then gradually people begin to toe the line and see that, this is what we need to do. You've got to start somewhere. Perhaps those in the upper form 4, form 5, start with them. Start with the more mature learners, the more elder ones. Give guidelines and expect. As teachers, we always are trained to expect the worst. And we are excellent in handling the worst of all our students. Most teachers are. I've seen them. I've seen them doing it very well. And at the same time, things like this will get out of hand. You will have students who will do something else with the gadget. Look, a technology is impartial. It doesn't tell you what to do. You got to tell it what to do. So I would go for, yes, introduce mobile phones, tabs, and there are a number of schools I know that have specific tabs, and the tabs are provided in the school grounds for a particular lesson, and that means teacher planning is very important. Okay, and that's how it makes things happen in a school. Yeah.
I think with clear guidelines and house rules and purpose of bringing those gadgets to class, I think if we have all this in place, then I mean, yes, of course, you cannot have 100%, you know, kind of using the gadgets by the students, which are really for education. Yes, but with close monitoring, yeah, control, clear guidelines with clear SOPs, and making a clear plan, like we have mentioned earlier, then the application or the use of gadgets in the classroom should be encouraged for the purpose of quality education. So, I mean, we have to have those clear guidelines. Then I think we are on the right track. Yeah.
Yeah. Adding on a little bit to all the panels, also exposing these students who are already very well exposed to the dangers that they may encounter. Yeah. Like I have two teenagers, two girls, both are using their handphones excessively. And sometimes we actually discuss the issues that we face, like while we use Instagram or TikToks, you have spam, we have people strangers requesting for friendship, and also openly discuss this kind of issues with your students, not just the parent from home, but teachers also take classroom time to expose your students to the dangers of what you can encounter, to the max what's happening around the world. And because they are also connected to not just friends in Malaysia, they are now so connected to everyone outside. And I get so frightened also sometimes. Who are your friends? They have friends in Sri Lanka, suddenly they
Yeah.
have friends in countries that I've never heard of. Very scary, so if teachers can play a role of guiding them, that will be a very good thing, very good help for us as parents.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to add, yeah, a little bit about the fear. That's why we talk about the ethics.
Correct.
Ethics in digitalization of education. We need our learners to understand. Okay, I mean, that's why in technology literacy and digital literacies, these guidelines are provided. So it'll be good for teachers to understand, internalize it, and share with our learners the do's and the don'ts. Yeah. So with clear do's and don'ts, I think students will be able to get some idea about how, when we are talking about technology in education, we need to understand the ethics. Yeah.
Okay.
One thing
I
about
oh,
students, just now I would like to add a point from Dr. Shamini, right? When you mentioned that our students are connected with their friends who are not actually from Malaysia. Yes, I agree with you. In fact, they are actually connected with their friends on Discord. It's actually a platform for them to communicate while they are playing games. So if we teachers can take this opportunity, we can use Discord in our classroom where our kids can be communicating with friends outside Malaysia using English language. Use their platform, use the
Yeah.
tools that they are very comfortable with. Don't use WhatsApp, use Discord. Okay, that's their life actually. WhatsApp is not their life. Okay, thank you.
Good point. Good point. Thank you, Doctor.
yeah, yeah. I like how this discussion has moved from a simple question about can kids bring phones to class into if it has evolved into a discussion of educating the young people on digital citizenship. How to live and function in the digital world, and which is actually a very crucial skill that we need to impart to our learners. And I think I have one final question, which is a kind of question and also not a question, on not forgetting the language part of English language teaching. Because this morning we've been talking a lot about technology, we've been talking a lot about the digital world and all that. But this remark brings us back to the English language part of our webinar today, which is in trying out new tools and technologies and so on. How can teachers not get caught up, and forget that they're supposed to be teaching English? So, would anyone like to respond to that? Just maybe a very quick remark before we move on to the final part.
I think our top guru,
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah,
Aslam,
I
should.
think we are looking at the content area. Yeah, we're talking about the content. Yeah. Now, from the beginning, we did talk about there is no major change in content. It's basically the mode of delivery and the platform. So I understand that teachers will continue. Like honestly speaking, I came up with an acronym. My name Aslam. In looking at how you use Aslam in the classroom, for set induction, for presentation, development, closure, and so on. So on that note, I tell you, to be honest, we are not really putting aside the content. Yeah, the content is not put aside, only the delivery that has changed a little, I would say. But the teacher is still the teacher. The teacher is very well versed with all the content areas, and the teacher is making sure that the outcome of the lesson, for example, by the end of the lesson, students will be able to use punctuations or using past tense in the correct form, something like that. So those need to be achieved, but only the delivery mode may change a little bit, the platform may change a little bit. So on that note, teachers, you are doing a great job. You are delivering the content area that I'm very assured of. Yeah, only that a little bit of change in the delivery, the mode, and the platform. Other than that, you are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Could
Aslam.
I just add in here, if you don't mind? taking off from what Dr. Aslam says, of course, our business, our core business is English language teaching. It's English language. And as teachers, we have the pedagogical, we have the content knowledge. We know the stuff, we should know how to deliver them. The only added item into the equation here is technology. As I've said earlier, the technology, the pedagogy should move the technology, not the other way around. What is it that you want to achieve? In that, for example, at the end of the lesson, you want learners to identify adjectives. Fine. There are a lot of electronic stuff. There's a lot of websites you can go through. There's a lot of quizzes you can run, the way you can teach. And some teachers use pre-recorded lectures, pre-recorded teaching. Students love this. Don't make them into 1 hour or 40 minutes. Students like small bite sizes with focused elements in their teaching, looking at the focus on the form or focus on forms, either one of them, but keep to one. And you can have a succession of maybe 3-minute video, 5-minute video, and get students to do the videos. They love doing videos on TikTok. When I give assignments to students, it's always been TikTok. Can we do? I said, do whatever you want, as long as we achieve the objective of the lesson, and that should override anything and everything. Yeah.
Okay, my goodness, how time flies. Sadly, all good things must come to an end. And so we have come to the end of our question and answer segment. I would like to express the greatest appreciation to our panel for graciously devoting their precious time to this webinar and being so willing to share their knowledge and expertise with us. We are so grateful to you all for your help and support. May you all be blessed with good health and may life always be kind to you all. With that, I would now like to hand over the session to the organizing committee. Signing out.
Thank you, Dr. Ho, and our panel of distinguished speakers for helping us to unpack the theme of today's webinar. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite Dr. Willy Janda, Head of the Language Department, IPG Qatar, to deliver his closing remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the webinar. First and foremost, on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to express my appreciation to the speakers for their valuable contribution to our webinar on the topic English Language Education in the New Normal, Evolving and Thriving in the Digitalized Pedagogical Landscape. This webinar is conducted to achieve two objectives. One, as continual professional development, that is to further advance the professionalism of teachers through the dissemination and propagation of good practices and current developments in the field of education. Two, supporting learning communities, that is to enhance networking among practitioners in the field of education. Ladies and gentlemen, this webinar has been very effective in meeting its objectives. I'm sure that the sharing from the webinar will further deepen our thinking and understanding on the issues discussed. So, it would be appropriate and useful for me to summarize some of the issues, suggestions, and ideas mentioned by the speakers in this webinar. Throughout this webinar, our distinguished guest speakers have discussed the aspects on the old and new normal that English language teachers need to address in their practices. Besides that, they also shared with us the role of technology-based approaches in the new normal English language classroom. Aspect on what can be done through classroom practices to prevent the digital divide from further marginalizing learners without internet access were also discussed. And finally, the speakers also spoke on the skills that practitioners need to equip themselves with to further evolve and thrive in an increasingly digitalized pedagogical landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, before I end my closing remarks, once again, I would like to convey my special thanks to the distinguished panel members. Their presence has been invaluable and has helped make the webinar a great success. We in IPTA look forward to collaborating with you again in the near future. My deepest gratitude goes to all who have participated in this webinar and helped to make it such a successful event. We really appreciate the support we have received from all of you. My deepest thanks is, of course, reserved for the Director of IPTA, Madam Anish Alisha Abdullah, for her full support towards the organization of this webinar. And finally, thank you to the organizing committee for their priceless contributions and for running a smooth event. Well done. Ladies and gentlemen, until we meet again, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Willie, for your closing speech. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a final reminder to please fill in the registration form by 2 p.m. 2 p.m. today for your e-certificate of participation. Thank you, everyone, both near and far, for joining us today. Thank you for spending part of your precious weekend with us. And I would also like to express my sincere appreciation to the Director of IPG Qatar, Madam Anis Alisha binti Abdullah, for her unwavering support in making this webinar a success. To our 4 panelists, Dr. Aslam, Dr. Joseph, Dr. Shamini, and Dr. Hasmiza, thank you so much for making time for us today. A big thank you also goes to our team leader, Dr. Willie Janda. And a special thank you to our moderator, Dr. Ho Tin Tin, for a job well done. Last but not least, on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to apologize for any shortcomings on our part. We look forward to seeing you again in the future. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you.